Amen. I want to say Happy Mother's Day to everyone this morning. Thank you for being a mother. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be here. Really? Really, that's a fact. If you have your Bibles this morning, turn to Genesis chapter 1. Start with verse chapter 2 for sake of time. Go to chapter 2. I tell you, I want to say I appreciate the choir and Miss Linda playing, Brother David leading it. This is like a ragtag ball team, like the Mudville Giants or something. But you'll never see a group of people who love what they sing as much as this group right here.
Amen.
And it excites me that the choir, that the people of the choir will listen to gospel music to try to find a song that fits them. And they come to church and say, they bombard David every week, what about this song? What about that song? What about this song? If what you're doing in here affects what you're doing out there, then something's right. And if you're listening to gospel music or Christian music on the radio, searching for that song that is your song, and that music that says what you want to say, gives your testimony, that's awesome. That's out of this world. And I appreciate this choir. If you're not in this choir, you ought to come to choir practice. You don't know what happens on choir practice sometimes.
Amen to that.
Amen. Amen.
We don't know what happens.
We don't know what happens in choir practice sometimes. But I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes choir practice is every bit as much a church as church is.
Amen.
I appreciate this choir. Amen. This is Mother's Day, the day that we universally celebrate motherhood. But I'm going to tell you, if this is the only day you appreciate your mother, you're in sad shape.
Amen.
And every day we wake up ought to be Mother's Day. Because our mothers affect us as much or more than any other influence in this world. I don't know who said it, but they said that the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And that's a fact. Our mothers guide us and instruct us. Our mothers teach us. Our mothers are the first person that we love. You can take anything from a child to a puppy. And when that offspring sees the mother, there's an instant bond. I live on a farm and I've seen thousands of calves be born. That little calf can be dropped there in the field. A couple of minutes later, it'll hop up, and the first thing that mother does is turn around and start cleaning it off. And that little calf will look up at mom, and there's an inseparable bond right then. Our mothers are the first love of our life. Our mothers are the first guiding influence of our life. The mother is the one that gives us our first instruction, whether it be with kind words or a belt. Makes no difference to mom. She'll do it either way. Amen? I remember one time my mother was giving my sister some godly advice, and I made the mistake of snickering at that godly advice, and the next thing I knew, we had a set of cast iron frying pans across the hearth at the fireplace, and there was a little one about that big. I don't want to talk about them old cast iron frying pans. She had a set of them. When it started out that big, and they went up to about that big. She had them all lined up there. She happened to grab the little one, thank God. Next thing I knew, that thing come flying through the house. Pointed in my direction. I just thank God at that time in my life I was pretty fast and Mama had bad aim. But whether it's instructions with a belt or kind words, Mom's the one that gives it. But how many of you as mothers sometimes feel like you missed the ball game? I got a note coming, I'm in trouble now. Okay. Said, pray for Emma. She had another seizure. So Emma's having some problems with seizures. Pray for her. And tell you what, bro, wait, how about let's just stop in the service right there and have it for a little consent.
Praise the Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We get together with you in our minds. Lord, thank you for all that's been here, that we've done here today. Lord, pray that you address our situation. You know, how long she's been putting up with this. We pray that you put your hand on her, that we guard her around her, and find out what's wrong and get it healed up. We all ask all of this in Christ's name. Amen.
How many of you as mothers have felt like you missed the mark and failed? Maybe not all the time, but sometimes. That's a universal in talking to people and talking to moms and being in position of pastor. A lot of times people come to you and they talk to you and a lot of times people feel like mothers especially, I think, they feel like they failed. They feel like they missed the mark. Dads are the same way. They're no different. But the bond between a child and a mom is greater. I'll just say that. I love my daughters. I love them with every fiber in me. But I'm going to tell you something. I do not love them in the same sense or deepness that their mama does. I'd give my life in an instant. But a mom, I think, one that gives birth to a child or adopts a child, they have a deeper connection or a deeper sense about them than the dad's capable of. That's just a fact. And when a mama hurts, when a mama cares, she cares with everything that's in her. That's just a fact. And in talking to people, you see the effects of the child. You see the outcome of the child painted on the face of the mama. That's just the way it is. Good or bad. Right or wrong. The mama wears the painting of the life of her children. When my mama was living, I could look in her face and I could look into her eyes, and everything that I'd ever done was painted on her face. The worry, the joys, the heartbreak, the times I've messed up, the times I've done right. They were paintings on my mama's face. And not just me, but my brother, my two sisters, our kids. Every line that was there was put there by us. Every worry, every heartbreak, every joy was put there by our children. We started going through the book of Genesis Wednesday night, and I thought about the first mama. You all as mothers, you hopefully got mothers of your own to fall back on or to get instruction from, or grandmothers. But Eve here, she had nobody. She was the very first mama. How would you like that responsibility? You ain't got no grandma. You ain't got no mama yourself. This is a first-time deal. And in the book of Genesis, for sake of time, I'll just cut that part short. But for sake of time, it said, God created everything in this world. He created it to sustain life, to give life. When He made the fruit trees, He made them to reproduce and to bear fruit. When He made the animal kingdom, He gave them the capability to reproduce and to make fruit. Everything He made it to sustain life. But when He created man, He looked around and there was no way for man to sustain life. There was only one of them, Adam. Adam had no way to sustain life, or to reproduce life, or to make it grander. God looked at everything and said, this is good. He looked at the light and said, this is good. He looked at the land and said, this is good. He looked at the stars and the animals and said, this is good. He looked at man, and the only negative statement that he ever made about creation is when he looked at man, he said, this ain't good. It's not good that he should be alone. It's not good that he can't sustain life. So he said, I'll make a woman. Y'all know the story. He caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. He took out a rib and designed a woman. Then he looked at it and said, hey, this is very good. It went from this is good to this ain't good, to this is very good. Because when he made a woman, he made the element to sustain life, to give life. And that's exactly what a mama does. A mama is the one that gives life. She births them babies, she nurses them babies, she raises them babies. A mama is the one that gives life. It's what we draw our life from. The Bible even declares that Adam called the name of the woman Eve because she was the mother of all living things. You know the story in Genesis chapter 2. Verse 20, I ain't got my glasses. I'm sorry. I ain't got my glasses. Anyway, I'll just ad-lib it. In Genesis chapter 3, something takes place. In this little mama and this daddy, Adam and Eve, the Bible says they knew one another, and Eve bare Cain. God gave him a son. Not only did God give him a son, but God gave him 2 sons. You know the story? What happened in this account? What happened to these 2 sons that God had given this first family? Anybody tell me? Huh? Do what? Cain slew Abel. Think about it. This is a mama who, in the creation of all mankind, you talk about feelings, regrets, and feelings. Some of you may have regrets. Eve knew regret more than anybody in this world, I believe. They had it in the Garden of Eden. They had the perfect surrounding. And I'm backstorying. But they had the perfect surrounding. God had created them. They said they walked with the presence of God in the cool of the evening. Eve knew regret more than anybody. Because what happened? Satan came to Eve just like Satan comes to all of us. Satan came to Eve and beguiled her. She took of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. And she brought sin into the world. She gave to her husband did eat, and the whole shebang was destroyed. You just think you feel like you know regrets. You just think that you sometimes do a bad job, or we do a bad job as parents. But in the perfect situation, Eve blew it. She fell miserably. And Eve had to live with those regrets. God cast them out of the Garden of Eden, cast them out of that perfect situation, and they lived in the world in which we live in. In the world in which we live in, God gave him 2 sons. Those sons rose up. One was a tiller of the ground, one was a keeper of the flock. The tiller of the ground brought his offering to God. Cain brought his offering to God. And God was not pleased. Why wasn't God pleased? God wasn't pleased because that was not God's way of redemption. Eve knew regrets. But one thing, and the one thing that matters most, is Eve also knew redemption. Eve also knew a way of reconciliation. Because before those two boys had their falling out, what happened when Eve sinned? God came down. God walked in the midst of them. Asked them what they'd done. He found out what their sin was. And the Bible said He slew an animal and made him coats of skin. She was reconciled back to God at that moment. Do you realize that God never brought up their sin again? We bring it up. We blame her for all our trouble. We blame Eve for being the first account where a man was eaten out of house and home. You'll get that. We blame Adam for all our trouble. Well, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be in this shade. I'm going to tell you something. If it wasn't for him, then the Bible would have recorded that Will and Amy messed it up. Or Walter and Shirley messed it up. Or Wade and Joyce messed it up. So I thank God for Adam, because he took some weight off us. Amen. Because if it hadn't been for him, it would have been for me. Amen. Or it would have been for you. But when God reconciled Eve back to Himself, when God made that relationship right, God blessed him with two sons. The one slew the other. One of her firstborn child committed murder. The second one was cast out to wander among the land forever. The Bible even declares that he was a vagabond. Ain't like them apples. You look at situations, and you look as a mother, we try to raise our kids right, we try to do right, we try to have a relationship with the Lord. Because there's not that great a deal between mothers and fathers. We're the same way. Fathers, we try to raise our kids right. We try to do right. We try to guide them in the right way. But I'm going to tell you something. There are regrets. There are remorse in this world. There are times when you do everything right and just it don't work out. But I'm going to tell you what happened in Eve's life, just like everybody else's life. The one thing that Eve had going for her, she was reconciled back to God. Nowhere in the Bible do you find that God ever brought it up again, or you never find that she fell again. That was a one-time deal. And it's the same way with salvation. You get saved, that's a one-time deal. I was reconciled back to God September 15th, 1989. I don't have to do it again. You know what? God has never brought it up since then. Now, have I failed Him? Yes. Have I failed Him this week? Yes. Have you failed Him this morning? Yes. I'll just be honest with you. There's no perfect parent.
That's right.
There's no perfect mama. There's no perfect daddy. The best we can do is the best we can do. In this life, one thing that we realize is that there are regrets. There are troubles. There are trials. But the only thing we can do is, the only requirement that you have to God is giving your heart to Him. The only thing Eve was ever held responsible for was her relationship to God. You realize that? The only thing she was required for was her relationship to God.
Amen.
The only thing you're required for is your relationship to God.
Amen.
Nowhere in all the Bible do you find that God instructed her how to be a mama. Nowhere. You don't find God giving instructions on how to be a mama. You don't find God giving instructions on how to be a daddy. What you do find is God giving you instructions on how to have a right relationship with Him. Because I'm going to tell you what happens. Miss Sinai, you're the youngest mama in here, the newest mama in here. Amen? You know what your requirement to that child is? Your requirement to that child that is so precious, your only requirement is that your relationship with God be what it should be. That's the only requirement Sinai has. Now she has some by law to take care of it, protect it, and do all that. We know that. And she's got some moral obligations to raise it right and do right and let me hold it at least once a week. She's got some obligations like that. But I'm going to tell you something. The only thing God's going to hold her accountable for is her relationship to God. Because I'm going to tell you a secret. If her relationship to God is where it needs to be, her relationship to that baby ain't going to be a problem. You know why your mama drug you to church? You know why your mama took you to church and made you go to church? Even if she couldn't, you said a lot of times, even if mama couldn't go to church, she made sure we was at church. You know why she did that? It wasn't because she loved you. It wasn't because she wanted to raise her boy right. It wasn't because she wanted to do all those things and you turned out to be a wonderful man, a great song leader, and used to God in mighty ways. It wasn't because of all that. The reason she drug you to church and made sure you were there and raised right is because she had a right relationship with God herself. Amen. And her relationship to God made her want the best for her boy. Made her want to do right. Made her drug you to church. Made her make sure her boy was in there. William, you're fixing to be a dad. It's scary, ain't it? Anybody that says it ain't scary is lying to you. That's just a fact. Scariest thing you'll ever do is when that youngin gets here, it's terrifying. It's grand and glorious and wonderful and great, but I'm telling you something, it's the scariest thing you'll ever do. It's like going duck hunting with your daddy. You don't know if you're going to live or not. Amen? But it's terrifying. You know what your one responsibility? Be the best man of God you can be. Because I'm going to tell you something, you fall in love with God and serve Him with everything in you, and you pray and you live your life for God, raising that baby, take care of yourself. Because if you've got a right relationship with God, you'll have a right relationship with that child. You'll be the man that you God needs you to be. Steph will be the mama that she needs to be, but only if her relationship with God is where it needs to be. What we do and what we say and what we think ought to be based on our relationship with our Heavenly Father. She knew regret, she knew remorse more than anybody. And just to cut everything short, she had 2 sons. But what happened? Was that the end of the story? No, that ain't the end of the story. With God, it's never the end of the story. Amen? With God blessed him with another boy. Anybody know his name? Seth. What happened with Seth? Seth had a son. You know what Seth's son's name was? Anybody know what that is? Enos. Seth had a son named Enos. And when Seth had a son named Enos, what does the Bible say about him? Then men began to call on the name of the Lord. What do you think the devil told her when Cain slew Abel? It's over. What do you think the devil told that mama when she buried that baby boy? All hope's gone. What do you think the devil told that mama when God cast him out of the Garden of Eden and shut the doors behind him? It's over. What do you think the devil's told 1,000 mamas when their kids go wrong? It's over. What do you think the devil tells 1,000 mamas every day of the week? When they see the things that are going on around, it's over. Because the devil tells the mama the same thing he tells dad. There's no hope. It's over. And if the devil can get you to believe that there's no hope and it's over, you quit.
That's right.
You just quit. But as long as there's hope, as long as there's a God in heaven, and as long as your relationship with Him is right, God gives hope.
Amen.
God gave her another son. And I imagine she raised that son the same way she raised the other two. We don't change drastically. God makes us, gives us a personality, makes us who we are. See, Eve just kept on keeping on. But when Eve had Seth, the Bible didn't say that Seth did it all right, but Seth had a son. So it's Eve's grandson. And then the Bible says men began to call upon the name of the Lord. Eve didn't see it in her son, but Eve saw it in her grandson. I'm going to tell you something. Your responsibility in being a mama never ends. Never ends. And when we look at how things are going, the one thing we need to remember is never lose hope.
Amen.
You look at the situation today, and the devil will tell you there's no hope. But you look at the situation tomorrow, and the changes God makes are phenomenal. I thought about it in the choir. My mama's been gone for, 4 years now? 5 years now. But I'm going to tell you something. I don't have a biological, physical mama. But I seen this Joyce sitting there. Joyce has been my adopted mama for 28 years. You know where we met? It wasn't at the rescue squad. It wasn't in church. I met Joyce, mama, at the Huddle House. And I wasn't no Baptist preacher with an amazing goatee and a fine haircut. I was a 17 or 18-year-old, long-haired, redneck punk. My hair was halfway down my back. I weighed 135 pounds soaking wet. I looked at it like a bad day at the hair salon. And every morning, I'd get off from third shift and I'd go eat 2 cheeseburger plates at the Huddle House. I had the metabolism of a squirrel. But every morning I'd walk in there and Miss Joyce would feed me 2 cheeseburger plates. She's just a friendly lady that befriended a long-haired redneck punk. I'd eat 2 cheeseburger plates and go to my first shift job. You say that ain't no big deal. It is when you're 18 years old.
Amen.
And you can't find your way. And you ain't got no idea where you're at in this world. A kind word means a whole lot.
Amen.
Being a mama never stops.
Amen.
Being kind never changes. What do you think happened because of her friendship to me at 18 years old in a cafe? What do you think happened when I find out she's married to the chief of the rescue squad? Hey, I know you. But because she cared, what do you think happened when the chief of the rescue squad invites me to church? I'm saying that to say you never know what a kind word may mean. You never know what just being a mama 24/7 will do. You may not be biologically kin to them, but I'm going to tell you something. If you're a mama, you got a responsibility to everybody. That is a nature that God puts in somebody that the world don't have. She didn't quit being a mama because her kids wasn't there. She didn't quit having that nature of a mama because her kids wasn't at the cafe. She just picked her another kid. And another kid, and another kid, and another kid, and another kid. But I'm going to tell you something. Because she was kind to me, what happened? I went to church. I couldn't say no to her. She was one of the kindest ladies I'd ever met. So I went to church. What happened? My kids are here today on a large part because the lady was kind to me and feeding me 2 cheeseburgers every morning 28 years ago. You think being a mama don't mean nothing? You think being a mama don't matter? You think having that nature and that nurturing spirit about you is no big deal? I'm going to tell you something. You influence the world. You influence everyone God puts in your path. Don't ever give up hope. Because your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, may be the ones that turn the world around.
Amen.
Your outcome is measured only in eternity. And when Eve got to heaven, the sin of the fruit was never mentioned. You hear me? When Eve stood before God, the sin of the fruit was never mentioned. That was under the blood. The failure of 2 of her children was never mentioned. You know why? It's under the blood. But I'm going to tell you what was mentioned. What about that little grandboy, Enos? What about him? Because a mama did not give up when things looked dark, the human race began to call upon God again.
Amen.
And because a mama didn't give up, the human race began to have a relationship again with Almighty God.
Amen.
I'm going to tell you who set this thing straight. We blame Eve for a whole lot. But when she got to heaven, I guarantee you God looked at her and said, "Hey, well done. Hey, grandboys, you're going to turn the world upside down." Matter of fact, I'll even write down in the book that that's when men began to call upon God.
Amen.
That's when the things changed around again. We have a responsibility to do right, live right, and be right, because the things that God may never let me do, the failures that I made may prevent me from doing it. But if I keep on keeping on, maybe God will let one of my grandyoungers do it. You've got a responsibility not to just, you're 4 and no more, or you're 2 and that's it. You've got a responsibility to everybody that comes in your back. You've got a responsibility to keep on keeping on when all else is falling apart. Miss Candy, everybody in this church is watching you for the last year. Not critical or anything like that, and not judgmental. You've been going through some things. We've been praying with you and asking God to bless and asking God to help. But you know what everybody's seen? Seen you and David come to church. Get up there and sing.
Amen.
Keep on keeping on.
Amen.
When you could have stayed up there in Virginia and rested all day, y'all jumped in the car and drove back down here. That might not mean like a whole lot, but I'm going to tell you something. When you did, you inspired everyone else. You got the doctor's reports, and they said this and that, and possibility of it spreading, or this and that. You just kept on coming in here and singing. Kept on keeping on. That was grand and glorious for every one of us. We've watched it, we've wept with you and prayed with you and been encouraged by you. But I'm going to tell you who else has. What about your girl in Charleston? What about a dog that needs direction? Needs something to hold on to? Needs a faith? Needs the ability to stand against the storms that'll come and go in her life? I'm going to tell you where she'll gain that. From watching you. And I'm going to tell you where you got your strength. From that precious lady sitting beside you. What if you'd have quit? What if you'd have gave up? What if you'd have thrown in the towel? When the storms have blown against you two, y'all just set your mark and stood still. So that when the storms blew against your daughter, she was able to set her mark and stand still. And I'm going to tell you something, because you and David have set an anchor and stayed where you have, when the storms blow against your daughter, she'll be able to do the same thing. What we do affects the world. What you do today will affect your grandchildren 100 years from now. Miss Joyce, or Mama, thank you. Thank you. Kind word from Mama can change the world. First thing this young man said to me this morning, "Hi, my name's TJ. You know who she is? That's my granny." You know what happens? You know what he may do? He may turn the world upside down. You know how he'll do it? You keep on keeping on. He said, "That's my granny. That's my aunt." He's looking at both of y'all ladies. Both of y'all got a responsibility to him. God will do through you what He won't do with you sometimes. Just keep on keeping on. Have a right relationship with Him, and you'll have a right relationship with everybody else. You keep your relationship with Him right, everything will work out. And He'll do it again. Amen? Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this day you've given us. Thank you for every mama that's here this morning. I pray that you bless them in a mighty special way. Help them realize just how important their position is. Help them to realize just how important that nature that God gives a mama may change the world. Lord, we thank you for each and every one that had an effect on my life and my family and my children. Lord, thank you for each and every woman that's had a part in being kind and saying the right thing at the right time. Lord, we thank you for each and every one that's here, and I pray that you just go with us and help us to have the right relationship with you, help us to have a relationship with you that will change the world. We love you, thank you for what you have done, look forward to what you're going to do. Bless all the mothers. In Christ's name we pray.
Before everybody leaves, all the moms go up to the front, there's a little bag up there.
All the mamas.
Go get one of
Basket. But I'm gonna tell you something, it's got candy in it, so you may have to chase it, add it